First of all, can we explore the IOC's position on what has happened with these two boxers, why they're eligible to fight here in Paris?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There has a little bit, not anger, but we're a little bit passionate because, one, we want to concentrate on the sport. Everyone wants to enjoy fair sport, fair competition. And two, I think we feel that these women have been targeted, particularly on social media. They've been subject to death threats, and it's kind of quite arbitrary. So we feel quite strongly about that. Just to remind people, this is not a transgender issue. This is absolutely not a transgender issue. These women were born as girls. They are registered as female. They have female passports. They have competed for the last 6 or 7 years in senior competition. They've won bouts and they've lost bouts as women. So for us, it's very important that we give them the support, particularly at the moment. I think if anyone would put themselves in the position of those two athletes who are being ridiculed and attacked, even death threats in some cases, simply because of a test which came from a discredited federation which wanted to change the results of a bout. This is not acceptable, and that's, I think, why we get angry. Of course we want fair bouts, but we also want people to have the right to compete fairly and without harassment.
I think this is one of the confusing things for people who aren't necessarily going through the minutiae as perhaps you and I are. Mm-hmm. The IBA, discredited organisation, thrown out of the Olympic family by yourselves, and that has been upheld in the courts through the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Let's make that clear first of all. Why are they discredited? Why do they have no authority in your view?
Well, they don't have any authority because there are all sorts of governance issues, finance issues, and I was saying in the press conference today, you only actually have to go and look up the president of this organisation, Mr. Kremlev, who, interesting name, interesting links. You only have to go and look up and see the kind of videos that he's posting, which are explosive and aggressive. You only have to go and see those to realise why they should not be trusted or listened to. And I think that's we suspended them, and then we actually eventually banned them because they're not good for the sport. They're not in it for the athletes. They're not in it for the sport. And we need someone. We encourage other people. We want to keep boxing on the Olympic programme. We need a new international federation. At the moment, the IOC is running the sport of boxing here in Paris. We can't do that again for another year. We did it in Tokyo. We can't do that again for another edition. So we are imploring the federations to come together, and that movement has started to come back with a modernised new federation that respects the rights of the athletes.
The leaking of medical data of Imane Khelif and Yu-Ting that suggests one of them has an XY chromosome.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's really not wise to discuss people's intimate details in public, and particularly...
This is part of the problem for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but particularly because the tests themselves and the way the tests were carried out and the arbitrary nature of those tests. Who are we going to target next? Who's the next person who's going to be targeted? This person, that person. In the bad old days of Olympic sport in the last century, in the 20th century, we had sex testing, and I know some athletes even gold medalists who underwent sex testing. It was humiliating. All women had to undergo a sex test. We don't want to go back, nor can we go back to that. It's actually now would be ruled against people's human rights, quite rightly. It's not just humiliating, it's against their rights as well. So we don't want to go back to that. But each federation has to work out for itself what are their rules of eligibility. The women who are competing here, those two women, reached those rules of eligibility. They're not dissimilar to many of the other federations. In fact, they are similar to many of the other federations that are here. So let's have a sensible conversation about a very difficult topic. Let's have an adult conversation, not a slanging match on social media. You're wrong, you're right, whatever. Let's not do that. Let's try to spare sport that. Let's try to get back to watching great and fair and inclusive sport, and let's not get involved and bring all those prejudices, all those culture wars from other areas into the arena of sport.
Just to be clear, won't go into specifics, but you doubt the IOC's position. You doubt that these alleged tests by the IBA have even happened, probably in a controlled environment, or even happened at all.
I don't know, to be honest, personally.
But you doubt any credibility.
I just don't think they have any credibility in the way that they've been carried out, why they've been carried out, for what purpose they've been carried out, what the test was for, why those two athletes were themselves targeted. There's all sorts of rumours why they were targeted in terms of who they might have beaten in previous rounds of the competition and what nationality, getting back to our earliest discussion, what nationality those boxers were. I don't know about that, and I couldn't stand that up. But there is so much to discredit the method and the content of these tests that we won't even engage with them.
Yesterday we saw Imane Khelif when she left the ring yesterday. She was in floods of tears. Good to see the embrace with the Hungarian opponent, 3 embraces. But how, from you, I'm sure you'll have teams that are with the national Olympic committees and the boxers. How is Imane Khelif? How is Khelif and Yu-Ting?
Well, from what I hear, and we've obviously, the IOC have been in touch, our safeguarding officers have been in touch with the teams and with both those athletes. I mean, it's very tough. Imagine, particularly for the Algerian boxer, coming from a more conservative society, having to deal with this kind of global pile-on from people who don't know the facts about the subject, who are saying it's a man fighting a woman. This is utter rubbish, and it really needs to be stopped. We need to discuss these issues like adults. It's not an easy issue. There isn't a black and white answer to any of this. As the president of the IOC said yesterday, if someone can find a medical consensus, what is a man, what is a woman, we are happy to work with it. But until then, we have competing ideas and we have to work with what we have, and we have to work with the eligibility rules as they are, unless everyone wants to go back to sex testing.